You've spent a significant amount of time talking to Steve Bannon, certainly during the campaign, have a good sense of what his political philosophy is. What did you learn last night that was new from this conversation between Charlie Rose and Steve Bannon?
Well, I don't know how new this was, but the level of Bannon's animosity toward Republican leaders in Congress, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, Bannon was never a big fan, but I've never heard him be as explicit publicly as he was. He made it clear that there's going to be a civil war within the Republican Party, and that he is going to be sort of the general, of one of the armies here. We found out from Politico today that Bannon is planning on marshaling his own candidates to run against Republican incumbents in a lot of these primaries, and so this could have a serious effect on Republicans' ability to control the Senate. That'd be number one. And then number two, I think what you heard in the DACA quote you just aired was both a threat from Bannon and a worry. The worry, I think, is this idea that Trump is going to continue down this path with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and ultimately find a way to come around and legalize DACA and the Dreamers. That is the worry. Bannon doesn't want that to happen. The threat is that if it were to happen, that he would launch an even bigger war, and essentially this would divide the Republican Party right on the eve of the midterm elections and very likely cost them control of one or both houses.
No secret here that he's had a lot of disagreements with Gary Cohn, who's the head of the National Economic Council within the White House. Charlie Rose asked him about that last night, and Steve Bannon invoked this movie, The Wild Bunch, this late 60s Western music, and sort of laid out his outlook toward working for President of the United States, that being you're either with him or you're not, and if you're not with him, get going. He said very explicitly last night, Josh, he thinks Gary Cohn should have resigned after his public criticism of the president following the protests and the death in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and what Bannon is doing here, I think we need to understand. He is going after Cohn frontally, saying he ought to resign. But it was interesting to me that he did not go after Trump, neither for keeping Cohn employed or for deciding to fire James Comey. What Bannon is trying to do is weaken people around Trump inside his administration as a way of building up his own influence, even from the outside. But Bannon is a smart enough guy to know that if he wants to maintain that influence, he cannot criticize the president directly. And watching him walk that tightrope was the most interesting thing to me about the 60 Minutes interview.